if we look at what's happening in Palestine today, it appears as if that the Oslo agreement has run out of steam. It's difficult to see how the peace process can go forward.
Well, the reality is that Israel has turned its back to Oslo agreement long time ago. It refused to implement it. By 1999, if Oslo agreement had been implemented, Israel would have redeployed from 90% of the occupied territories. And the fact is that Israel did not implement Oslo agreement. The fact that it turned its back to Oslo agreement, but also the fact is that Oslo agreement itself was bad from the beginning, because it was a trap for Palestinians. It was a trap so that Israel would gain time. It was a trap so that Israel would have enough time with the silence of the international community to expand settlements. And the proof to that is what Israeli Peace Now movement reported, which is that 60% of all settlers today in the West Bank were put in the West Bank illegally after Oslo agreement was signed. And unfortunately, Oslo agreement created deep divisions within the Palestinian camp, and that's exactly what Israel wanted, to co-opt the Palestinian National Liberation Movement, to divide it, and to gain time, and then proceed with its plan, which was never a plan for peace, nor a plan to allow Palestinians to have free, independent, sovereign state. In reality, during the last 16 years, Israel has completed a full transformation of its regime here into a full-fledged apartheid system, even a much worse apartheid system than what prevailed in South Africa at one point of time.
It's difficult for people outside Palestine to really see the full picture of the occupation, because looking at it, people say, okay, 400,000 settlers, but it's not too much. But when you look at what's happening on the ground in Palestine, it's very clear. The settlers are really occupying most of the land, they control the populated centers, and slowly turning various population centers in Palestine into local prisons. And that seems to be the goal of the Israeli occupation now.
Some people say that even when we call them settlers, we're giving the wrong impression. Maybe we should call them the colonialists, or we should call them the thieves, or the people who grab the land, or the criminals who are conducting war crimes against Palestinians. All of that is correct, but in reality, the settlers in this case are nothing but the forefront of a process. And the process that Israel has been using without stop since 1948 is a process of ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. They cannot today conduct the same massacres that they did in 1948, which forced what became now 6 million Palestinian refugees to leave their homeland. But they are doing something at a different pace, but it is still a war crime, and it is a process of ethnic cleansing. And settlements are only one component of a whole strategy. The strategy includes settlement building, the strategy includes confiscation of Palestinian land illegally. The strategy also includes establishing checkpoints that prevent Palestinian free movement. It includes the building of an apartheid wall, which is probably much worse than Berlin Wall used to be. It is a process that includes also a set of laws that Israel issues in a way to control the whole legal system. So it's a matrix. It's a real matrix aiming at dismissing Palestinians from their own land, from their homeland, replacing them with illegal Israeli settlers. And that process is the same going on since 1948. It didn't stop. Today, they are just trying to, because there is a lot of international demand that there will be a Palestinian state, they are trying to sell the idea of substituting the Palestinian state with clusters of Pantostans and cantons and ghettos. Nothing less than that.
Do you think that with President Obama and his Cairo speech, there is going to be any difference on the ground?
President Obama's speech represents a change. Nobody can deny that. It's not enough change, and he did not eliminate or declare that he's changing the strategic alliance between the United States and Israel, unfortunately. But he went beyond any previous American president. And why is he doing that? Because he feels that the American interest for stability in the region, whether we are talking about the immediate Middle East or places like Afghanistan or Pakistan or Iraq, etc., requires some kind of a solution of the Palestinian question. So he's behaving not because of the interest of Palestinians, mainly he's behaving because of the interest of American people. What's different between Obama and other presidents is that he's trying to pave the road for some kind of an American policy, while all we had during the last 8 years was Israeli policy conducted by American officials. But while doing so, he's also encountered by resistance from his own establishment. He's encountered by resistance from the Congress and the Senate. He's encountered by vicious attacks and resistance from the Israeli lobby, which is very powerful in the United States. So how far he can go, I don't know. I think it depends on how much the international community will finally say that enough is enough, and Israel cannot maintain the status of impunity to international law and international humanitarian law and to every other law. And if there is a strong movement, and the movement has to be clear, today it's not enough to make a declaration that you support the Palestinian people. It's not enough to make a declaration that you don't agree with the war crimes in Gaza by Israel. What we need is more than that. What we need is the same kind of attitude that prevailed during the South African apartheid system. What we need is sanctions on Israel. What we need is boycott of Israel. What we need is divestment from Israeli projects. What we need is for governments that respect Palestinian people and respect their own people is to stop, for instance, military cooperation with Israel. You know very well that many countries in this world, including India,
today is the biggest one,
are buying military equipment from Israel and having military trade with Israel and having security systems from Israel. We think that the Indian people is very supportive to the Palestinian cause and has been historically very supportive to the Palestinian cause. And I think it's inconsistent to have this kind of military cooperation with Israel while Israel is occupying Palestinians, oppressing Palestinians, and creating an apartheid system against the Palestinian people. Just a minute ago, we learned that Israeli forces and ships have attacked a peaceful boat, very simple boat that was trying to reach Gaza with Peace Prize, Nobel Peace Prize laureate Mairead Maguire. Why do they do that? Because they don't care. They think that they are above law, and they think that nobody is going to punish them for these acts. What we need today are acts of sanctions on Israel, especially by the people and the governments who are considered friendly to the rights of the Palestinian people.
So one message that we have from you is that the Indian people have to really pressure the government to break its military ties with Israel. That's a task that the Solidarity Movement in India, as well as in other places, have.
In the best traditions of Mahatma Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi struggled hard in South Africa against apartheid before he was instrumental in building a very powerful movement of non-violent resistance in India, and then later, of course, and many other leaders in India did that. That country of great, we look with admiration to the history of the Indian people, to the fact that you managed after 230 years of colonialism to get rid of the British colonial power and get your own freedom. We look with admiration to the great traditions of struggle of these people, and we think that your side, your natural place is with us, with other people who are struggling for the same values, freedom and so on. That's why I believe it is time to have a change. But we all know that today, the world of today requires mass popular movements from the grassroots, and that governments require pressure from the grassroots movement to change its policies. I know very well also that in the case of South African apartheid system, it took years of grassroots work that was consistent, that was continuous, till governments started to change their positions. And I hope in our case it will be faster.